Hey everybody, this is Russ from Retro Game Core. Today we're going to take a look at some of my favorite retro handhelds under $150. Now this whole retro handhelds thing is kind of crazy. I've been doing it for a couple years now and it seems like there's a new one that releases every couple weeks. And that's a good and a bad thing. It's good because there's lots of choice available out there, but it's also bad to decide which one you want to spend your money on. And so today we're going to do a razor focus on 4 of my favorites right here, and like I mentioned, all of these can be found for under $150. Now before we get started, there are a couple things I do want to point out just as far as context. Number one is the Sony PlayStation Vita. Now this came out about 10 years ago and has been discontinued as of a few years ago, but you can still find them used for pretty cheap online, and there's a lot of potential here. You can jailbreak them and then add all sorts of PS Vita, PSP, or PS1 games. On top of that, it can emulate 16-bit and below systems pretty well too. And so I'm not going to use this as one of my top 4, but I did want to bring that up, and I have lots of videos about the PS Vita here on this channel if you're interested. And the second point I want to make is that this stuff can change in the blink of an eye. For example, today as I'm working on this video, one of the major companies announced a new handheld that's coming out for pre-order starting today. And this is called the Retroid Pocket 3. It is $120, so it does fit in our $150 price point, and it has the same chipset as one of the devices we'll be showing off today. However, I haven't had a chance to review this unit yet, so I can't really say whether or not it's going to be worth your money. But if you haven't already, I would recommend maybe subscribing to the channel because I'll have a review out here in the next couple weeks. Okay, and so with all that out of the way, let's go ahead and start actually talking about these 4 devices here, which are my 4 favorite to play under $140. Now we're going to start with the cheapest of the devices and then work our way up. We'll start with this one here. This is the Miyoo Mini. Now this device came out about 7 months ago at this point, and we've had a couple versions already released. Now it sounds funny, but the major selling point of this $60 device is that there's nothing really wrong with it. Often at these budget price points, there's going to be some glaring errors. However, this one's pretty awesome. It has a good button layout, a very nostalgic form factor, and the screen, despite being only 2.8 inches, is incredible to look at. Now I've done a ton of videos about the Miyoo Mini, and I recommend checking those out, but in a nutshell, this is going to come with its own firmware, and to be honest, the operating system that comes with the device is not terrible, especially compared to those that came out just a few years ago. And so if you're looking for a device that's super portable and pocket friendly, then this might be a great deal. In general, this can play all the way up to 16-bit systems no problem, so all the way up to Super Nintendo, and then it can also play a fair amount of PlayStation 1 as well. Now this device has been so treasured over the past 7 months that it's been selling out left and right, and they really haven't been able to manufacture enough to keep up with the demand. And on top of that, the community's gotten really behind this thing. There are 4 different models available in all these different colors, and people have unlocked things like being able to make a custom boot logo like you see here, as well as custom firmware. Personally, I've found that this device does the best when playing role-playing games. For example, a Super Nintendo role-playing game like Final Fantasy III or VI like this is just incredible. And given the fact this device is so small, you can take it anywhere. And recently we've been seeing a lot of different mods in terms of hardware experience as well. For example, as you can see here, I'm using custom buttons and a sticker on the front and back. This really allows you to personalize the device and makes it super cool. On top of that, we've been seeing a bunch of new 3D printed cases and stands and even grips for this thing as well. And I have a whole Miyoo Mini playlist that goes over all of these different things, and I'll have that linked in the video description. Either way, yeah, I totally love the Miyoo Mini. It's probably my favorite device of the year so far. So now let's move on to the next device. This is called the Retroid Pocket 2 Plus. And this is the predecessor to the Retroid Pocket 3, which I said just got announced today. Now this device costs $99 plus shipping, but there are going to be some caveats at that price point. For example, the analog stick here on the left does not click down, and the analog stick on the right is actually a slider and not a true stick. Also, in terms of ergonomics, it's a little bit boxy for my tastes, and so what it ends up doing is being not quite comfortable after about an hour of use. But among all the other devices that we're showcasing today, this one has the best chip. It's the most powerful. To give you an idea of performance, you'll be able to play a lot of systems that struggle on the other devices. For example, Nintendo 64, Sega Dreamcast, and even Sega Saturn are pretty great on this thing. And so if those 3 systems are the most important to you, then I think this is a no-brainer. The Retroid Pocket 2 Plus or that upcoming Retroid Pocket 3 will probably be your best bet. Now, each of the Retroid devices are Android-based. What that means is that in order to get them to play like a true gaming console, you will have to spend some time setting them up. And of course, I have guides on how to do that here on this channel. I'll also leave those linked in the video description. But one of the advantages of using Android like this is that it can basically function like a little Android tablet. What that means is you can play Android games and do game streaming and things like that. And so yeah, for $99 plus about $20 for shipping, I think this one is a really great deal. And like I said, be on the lookout for a Retroid Pocket 3 review here in the coming weeks. Okay, let's move on to the next one. This one is called the Anbernic RG351V. Now this device is one of many that use the exact same chipset called the Rockchip RK3326. Now these are Linux-based operating systems that use Emulation Station as their front end. That means it's going to be really nice to navigate right out of the box. And this one costs about $110 retail with free shipping, but you can find it for cheaper. And like I mentioned, this is not the most powerful device in the world. What I can say is that it will play up to PS1 with absolutely zero problems, and you will be able to play about half the catalog for Nintendo 64, Sega Dreamcast, and Saturn. However, where it really shines is going to be in your 8-bit and 16-bit systems. If you've ever wanted an upgraded version of a Game Boy or an NES, this is going to be a great fit. And personally, I think this form factor is super nostalgic and a lot of fun to use. In addition to having a D-pad, single analog stick, and some face buttons, it does have some shoulder buttons here on the back as well. Honestly, they're not the most ergonomic things in the world, but they will work in a pinch if you have a game that needs them. Either way, of all the devices that use the same chipset, I think this one is easily the best one for newcomers. And of course, I've got guides on how to set that up as well. I'll put them in the video description. Either way, if you're looking for retro systems in particular and you like this form factor, this is going to be a great deal too. And finally, we have the newest device on this list. This one is called the Anbernic RG353P. And as you've probably guessed, this one takes a lot of design cues from the original Super Nintendo controller. Now this one has an upgraded chipset from the one we just looked at, but it's not quite as powerful as the Retroid Pocket 2 Plus or the upcoming RP3. That being said, there's a lot of things to love about this device, and it's quickly become one of my favorite this year. Number one, this has both Linux and Android support, and so you can jump into the Linux side like I am here and have that really nice navigation interface. And despite being relatively new, there's already some custom firmware available for it, which does unlock the potential of this device. But like with the RG351V that we previously were looking at, this one also really shines when it comes to classic gaming, Super Nintendo in particular. I think it's a combination of some pretty good ergonomics, including stacked shoulder buttons, as well as that really nostalgic form factor. And so while it can't play every single Dreamcast, Saturn, PSP, or Nintendo 64 game under the sun, it can play a good bit of those catalogs. I would say about 3/4 of the catalog are going to be playable on this system. Not only that, there have been a lot of advances when it comes to ports on the Linux side. So you're going to be able to play PC games like Celeste or Shovel Knight or even the most recent Ninja Turtles game. And you guessed it, I've got guides for all those on my website and channel. And so if you like the idea of maybe tinkering around and unlocking some potential when it comes to homemade PC ports, this might be a lot of fun. And like I mentioned a second ago, this one is capable of running Android as well. And to switch between these two operating systems, it's as simple as just pulling out the SD card and booting up the device. And so I think the fact that this can also run like a little Android tablet is really compelling as well. It basically doubles the potential you have when it comes to gaming performance and interactivity. Now, the Android build that comes with this device is not great, and we don't have an update just yet. One of the things I don't like about it is that it doesn't have the Google Play Store. But luckily, you can use the Aurora Store, which will allow you to download your favorite emulator apps as well. And much like with the Retroid Pocket 2 Plus, if you want, you can set it up to have a nice interactive interface using a front end like Launchbox or the Reset Collection. In particular, I think the Android side of this device does best with Nintendo 64 and Nintendo DS. Nintendo DS is better because you can take advantage of the touchscreen available within Android, and Nintendo 64 just runs better on this operating system anyway. And this one costs $140, which does include free shipping, and so yeah, I think this one is a pretty good deal as well. In particular, if you like the form factor here and you want to focus on retro gaming with a smattering of the others, this is a great fit too. And so yeah, that's really about it for this video. I just wanted to show off 4 of my favorite devices as of today that cost under $150. Now, of course, the handheld space updates all the time, and so I expect 6 months from now I'm going to have a different 4 to show off. Either way, I would say that the existence of new and upcoming handhelds doesn't take away from the fact that you're going to have a lot of fun with any of these 4 right here. And so if you're brand new to the whole idea of a retro handheld device, I think that any of these 4 are going to be a lot of fun. And if you've been around for a while, or maybe you have a couple handhelds already, then I'm interested to hear what you think as well. If you had $150 to spend, which device would you buy and why? So let me know in the comments below. I'm happy to have that conversation with you. As always, thank you for watching, and be sure to like and subscribe subscribe if you found this helpful, and we will see you next time. Happy gaming!